24 questions black people have for white people. I'm going to try to answer these questions. Hopefully I can do a good job. Remember, I'm actually white. I'm just going to tell you this. Just don't tell anybody, but I'm actually white, so I'm going to try to answer these as a white person. I don't represent all white people, and no white person does. No person of any race represents all the people in that one race. So, but I'm going to answer this as this particular white guy. So with that in mind, let's get to the questions.
Why do you always make such horrible decisions in horror movies?
So why do we always make horrible decisions in horror movies? I'm not actually in any horror movies. I'd like to be in a horror movie. I think horror movies are very cool and all. But horror movies aren't real. They are based on a story that some writer comes up with, and that writer is actually white usually, or for a lot of these movies. There's some Asian ones that do really good horror movies too, actually. But the point is, it's not that white people are making bad decisions and that's the way they are in real life. Why do white men prefer to see women with big lips and big butt on white women rather than on a black woman? Which seems kind of a weird thing. But personally, and it's all a matter of preference. Like, everyone's going to say different things. Some people are going to like big lips, big butts. I'm actually not really into big lips and big butts. It's just a personal thing. Because I'm skinny, I kind of like smaller, petite kind of women. And there's lots of black women that are actually very petite. So it's not even a race thing. I don't really see it as like, a big lips thing. Or actually, most people do like big lips, even not looking at race at all. Like, it's seen as being they actually associate the big puffy lips to actually being aroused. It's actually biologically true. So probably all people actually get slightly aroused by the fact that the woman has big lips. The reason we actually use lipstick is to heighten that sense of that big puffy lip look. I don't think it's like, I don't think any white guy would ever, speaking from personal experience, I would never say, oh, she has big lips, I can't possibly like her. I don't think that's something anyone would say. Or they would say, oh, big lips on a black girl, oh, that's crazy. I don't think anyone would ever say that. So I don't see this as really a question where I can answer the question that you're trying to force me to answer. It's sort of like a baited question where it's like, you have to answer it this way because you're racist, white guy. So I'm not going to fall for that. I don't really like the question because it's just not a real question. Okay, next question, please.
Miley is the one who created twerking?
So do we think that Miley created twerking? No, I guess simple answer. No, I don't think she created twerking. I mean, twerking's been around for a long time. I remember twerking before Miley was probably even born. So, yeah, I don't think Miley created twerking, and I doubt many people do. And who cares who actually invented twerking? I'm not sure if there's anyone that has a patent for the one that actually created twerking. And probably it goes back thousands of years, actually, that whole gyration of one's butt. So yeah, I don't think I would even want to claim that. That's like, if it's something where it's like this cultural appropriation thing and we gotta be like, oh, white people can't use that because it's culturally appropriating, then it's kind of like a really lame thing. Like, who really cares who created twerking? I really don't care. But yeah, but I know, for example, I would say totally, no, I don't think Miley Cyrus created twerking because that's totally lame.
I don't know how to twerk.
Why is it that white people always act as though they have discovered a new trend when people of color have been doing it for virtually years?
Why is it one of...
So again, this is that back to the cultural appropriation thing. So why do white people assume that they're the ones that invented something? I don't actually think that white people assume that they invented something, but I actually reminded of my own kids, and my kids are actually not white. They're mixed. Well, they're white, half Asian. I don't think that anyone claims to be the inventor or something. Like, they actually, when they first discover it, anyone first discovers something or first thinks of something, they always feel like they're the first to create it. And it doesn't matter who they are. It's like, wow, I was the one that invented it. Like, my kids, for example, when they came onto my back on piggyback rides, and they said, oh, I invented piggyback rides, that they invented piggyback rides, that piggyback rides never existed before they were born. That's the way people think. Maybe it's that kind of same situation where people, doesn't matter what race, it's not even a race thing, that it's just way people think that if they discover something or they think, they sort of embrace that idea that, hey, they invented it. But I really don't think, for the most part, like educated white people or even myself would ever say that they invented something that is associated with some other culture. And probably, if you look at the origins of any of these things that we sort of claim to one culture or another, they're actually probably older. It's like, there was actually a really great South Park episode where they basically had, it was all about the Simpsons. It was South Park, but about the Simpsons. And it's such a true answer to this question, because the whole episode was, Butters was basically experiencing that everything that he did was done already on Simpsons. So he was like, oh, but Simpsons did it first. Simpsons did it first. Well, the funny thing is, with all of our stuff, there was always somebody else that did something first. I'm not saying it's like one culture or one race that did it first, but finding the origins of some activity, you can probably go back and you can find some other group that did it. Trying to figure out who was the one that has the right or the patent to that idea is just silly. You know, we should just embrace all the different cultural things that we have in our society. We don't say that white people do it or black people do it or anything. Just enjoy it as part of the culture. The great thing about being in North America is that cultures mix, and we all gain things from that mix. It's not a white thing or black thing or Asian thing. It's just a thing that we mix cultures, and we all learn from each other's cultures, and we all add to our culture. So yeah, I really don't see this as an issue. So next question, please.
Why is it when a black woman wears her hair natural, it's seen as inappropriate, but when a white woman does, it's praised?
This is the
Okay, so this is again with the cultural appropriation. It's something that they really love. I don't know why they like the cultural appropriation stuff so much, but so if a black woman wears her hair natural, I'm fine with it. Actually, I actually prefer black women to wear natural hair. I think it looks good. But one of the things that I really like about the black culture is the fact that they have so many hairstyles. They really get into their hair. It's like when I watched the Chris Rock documentary on hair, I thought it was amazing. It was such an eye-opener because it really showed how hair is part of the black culture and how it's so intrinsic to the black culture and how it's so important to the women within the black culture. And they wear like straight hair, long hair, all the different hairstyles. Some of it to mimic white people, which in their context is that cultural appropriation of white people? I don't think so. I think it's just hair. At the end of the day, I'm not such a superficial person that I really care what a woman's hair looks like. I just hope that it's not too crazy. But that's me being me. I actually think hair, I like long hair personally. It's a personal choice, you know, it's just personal preference. Everyone, you know, I think hair is an expression of the way you want to look, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't like it, tough. you know, um, you know, hair is not a big deal. So is it like that white women can wear black hair and get away with it more so than black people wearing their own hairstyle? No, I don't think that's an issue at all. If white people have like an afro, like I actually had a friend who had an afro, but that was actually natural, and he was a white guy. Actually, he had red hair and an afro. It was the funniest thing. It looks so strange, but it was natural. So people having naturally curly hair, if they want to wear it that way, that's fine. People can wear their hair anytime, any way they like. But claiming that hair all of a sudden belongs to some specific race is kind of bogus. It's not. Hair is hair. Every race has straight hair people, curly hair people, tight curled, long curled. It's just hair at the end of the day. And if you want to shave your head, all the power to you. Okay? So hair, not a big deal. And I don't care if a white person wears afro or black person wears an afro, doesn't matter to me. Whatever looks good. So hair's not a big deal. Next question.
Hey, can you appropriate my student loans?
Can I appropriate your student loans? So again, this is all this white privilege kind of attitude that they try to, convince us that like white people have some kind of white privilege, that we just have this instant power that just by being white, somehow we have this weird power that we can basically go around controlling the world and doing all this wonderful stuff. Sorry, but it doesn't exist. I never saw white power or white privilege in any form. I had to work hard to get where I am in life, and I think a lot of people who are white are the same way. When I grew up in a very poor white area. Everyone was white. It was a very, very white area. And actually, I kind of didn't like it because of the fact that it was so all white people. I actually kind of like diversity more because I do love culture. I love experiencing different cultures. It's part of my mindset that I like to embrace other cultures. So do white people have white power or some kind of like white privilege? White power sounds very scary, but no, we don't, and we can't just go around appropriating your loans because we don't appropriate stuff in the first place. We're not appropriating your culture. We're not appropriating your student loans in this case. You can pay your own student loans by working hard, and that's what everyone else has done. So, appropriate your own student loans. Next question.
The white crime is seen as an isolated incident, but black crime is a representation of my entire community.
Okay, so basically, when we see black people on the news and they commit a crime, we don't associate that to the whole black community. I think most people are intelligent enough to know that every group has some bad apples. It's just the way it is. Every group has it. If that wasn't the case, then yes, we would have to say, oh, hey, they're that race, there must be bad, because if no other race has that, then that'd be the case. But no race is perfect. Everybody knows that every race, doesn't matter what the race is, commits crime and does bad things. So when I see somebody of color or black or Hispanic or whatever race committing a crime, I don't assume that all the people from that race are criminals, because if I did, that would basically be, because I see on TV every race committing some crime or other, I wouldn't make the assumption that all of those races would be committing crime, because that means everybody would be committing crimes, which would be kind of crazy. The percentage of people that actually commit crimes is very low statistically. So yeah, I don't see that as a really valid question, because it's kind of racist. It's basically assuming that white people see black people in a certain way that we really don't, or at least I don't. I don't think many of the people I know would see black people that way. So yeah, I just think it's a very racist question and not a very good one. So yeah, and don't worry about it. I don't, just because you're black, I don't see you as being a criminal. I see you as, in a BuzzFeed videos, maybe being a certain way. Maybe I see people within BuzzFeed videos as being racist because generally the questions that they ask are super racist. So maybe I do just generalize that way, but that's only about BuzzFeed. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt most of the time. Next question.
About race make you feel so uncomfortable?
Is it because you think that you'll be perceived as racist if you talk about race?
You don't.
So why don't white people talk about race? People talks about race, it is seen as racist by default. Like if I as a white guy say something about the black community, then it's my viewpoint, just because I'm white, is going to be tainted by the fact that I'm white. That, oh, I'm speaking from privilege and all this stuff that BuzzFeed perpetuates. Like this, the very questions that you're asking are sort of perpetuating this whole lie that there's this white privilege and that white people are born racist, and it's insane. So that's why white people are very, I would agree, are nervous about talking about race, because of the fact that no matter what they say, they're racist. If they talk about race, then they're racist. If they don't talk about race, they're racist. There's just no winning with this whole agenda that is being pushed out by companies like BuzzFeed. And for no reason. There's no real good reason to push this agenda. It only divides people and it makes the whole situation worse. So yeah, that's probably why white people don't like talking about race, because they just feel that they're going to be misinterpreted. And for the most part, the people that do want to talk about race as a white person probably are not racist. They actually want to really legitimately talk about things and get a better understanding of what the situation is. So yeah, I can agree with this question. Yeah, white people do feel nervous about it, but it's this type of video that makes people nervous about talking about it. So in a way, you wonder, your video actually answers the very question that it is asking, that it's basically setting up the situation that makes people nervous to answer it. So yeah, next question.
If you talk about race?
You don't really believe that racism is over because we have a black president, do you?
So I actually don't live in the US, so we don't have a black president here. And actually there's some debate whether or not Obama is truly a black president. He is actually more white than he is black, genetically speaking. It's actually kind of a racist thing to say that he is a black president, because if you look at his genes, he's actually more white than he is black. He's actually only 25% black. So that's beside the point, but the point is, I don't judge people on their skin color. If Obama wants to claim that he's black, then sure, he's black. But it doesn't really matter if the president is one color or another. It doesn't change people's attitudes. And I think most people would agree with this, that racism doesn't stop just because you have a black president. Racism will always be there, and it's not that racism is this evil that can be just systematically removed. It is something almost innate in people, that when we meet people of different backgrounds that we're not familiar with, we have certain prejudices, and it's just a fact that that's the way people are. So will that change? No, probably not. It doesn't matter who you put in as president. What does change and what does prevent racism as happening is to have the exchange. When people meet other people and they learn about them and experience the other cultures, then they generally become less racist. It's hard to be racist against your friends. Yeah, I don't think having a black president makes any difference. Next question.
Is it so easy for you to notice when there are no white people around, but you hardly ever notice when there are no black people around?
So why do we notice when there's no black people around or no white people around? Or actually, now that I've lived in a multicultural environment for many years now, I don't actually ever see the situation where it's like all white people or all black people or all one group ever. It just doesn't happen that much in the area that I live, and it really depends on where you live. My hometown where I was raised was all white. It was just like everybody was white. So anyone that was a different race, didn't matter if it was black or Chinese or any different race, was all of a sudden seen as surprising because it was just so rare to see somebody of a different race. But the funny thing is I've been in many different places over the years, and I've been in a situation where I was the only white person and everybody else within a huge area was a very different race than my race. So we do notice race. We actually notice when people are of a different race, and there is not that, when it's homogenized, you kind of notice people. It's just one of those things. The next question that they're going to ask is about colorblindness and why are white people trying to be colorblind. The whole concept is not what people think it is. And I kind of want to address this in the same question, and I'll play the other question after I say this. But the whole concept, and it came from when I was a kid, that colorblindness was that we basically, we don't see color as something that we use to judge people. And that doesn't mean we don't see color. We see, like, I can say, oh, that's a black person or Indian person or Chinese person or Japanese person or whatever person. I see those things. But I don't treat those people differently. So the point is, we do notice culture. We do notice different skin tones or whatever. We notice that, but we don't let that govern the way that we think about those people. We try to treat people equally, and I think that's a good thing. So if you're trying to suggest that that is a bad thing, well, I'm kind of confused. So yeah, I'm gonna play the next question. You'll see, it kind of is a little bit
No
weird.
black people around.
Why is your goal to be colorblind?
And there's so many different types of people in the world, yet you can't see color?
So you see what I'm saying? Like, they sort of say, oh, we can't see color. And again, we do see color, but again, it's all about not letting that force us to think some way about that person. We don't want to judge people based on their color. We want to be equal. So I don't not see color. And actually, I'll even point out, I'll say, if there's just one white guy in the room, I'll say, hey, you know, that white guy over there. So I'll actually point out if I had to identify somebody in the group, and the easiest way to identify them is by their race, I'll do that. I think we as a human creature, we naturally will see differences in people, and we'll use those differences in order to basically identify those people. And it's not that we're trying to be racist. It's not about racism at all. It is about just noticing the differences. But the whole point about being colorblind is to not let those differences make us think less or differently about those people. So it's actually a good thing. I hope they get that. So let's go on to the next question.
Why do you want to say the N-word so badly?
If I don't use it, what makes you think you can?
Why do you always...
So The N-word, I would never, ever use the N-word. I don't know anybody that would want to use the N-word. I actually don't understand why people in the black community use the N-word. I know that they're trying to use it as a thing of power. I don't get it personally, but I don't think any white person would ever want to use the N-word because it has so much baggage with it, and I think, yeah, I don't see any white person ever really wanting to use that word. If anything, it's the exact opposite. We want to avoid that word with the plague. It's not a good word because it just has way too much baggage. And if a white person ever uses that word, they're basically toast. Their lives are going to be ruined for just saying some silly word. Personally, I don't think that words are something that we should prevent people from using. Even though I might not like certain words, I don't believe in swearing, for example, and I see that word as being a swear word. But I don't feel negatively towards people that use swears. I try to judge people on what they're saying rather than the word choice that they make. So, yes, white people, or no, I should say no, white people do not want to use that word, and I think you're suggesting that we do, and that's crazy. So it's just not true. Okay, let's go on to the next
Want
question.
to touch our hair.
Who told you it was okay?
Okay, so why do we want to touch your hair? Actually, I don't really want to touch your hair. I think that's kind of creepy for people to go around touching other people's hair. So personally, I would never touch somebody's hair unless I was dating them, and it's kind of like a sign of affection. Yeah, I wouldn't really touch anyone's hair. So, especially if I didn't know them, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of creepy. So, no, I don't think we want to touch your hair. So, don't worry about your hair. Your hair is going to be fine. We're not touching it. Okay, next
To
question.
touch people without their permission.
Why do you feel like having one black friend makes you a cultural expert or not a racist?
Is your only
Okay, so, I'll let them
black
finish
friend
this question.
comfortable with being the reason why you can't be racist?
By that law,
Okay, so my only black friend. So every white person, basically, according to this question, has a token black friend. Yeah, so I have many people who are black that are my friends. At least I hope that they consider them myself their friend. I consider them friends. And I don't consider myself, even though I have lots of black friends, I don't consider myself a cultural expert on the black culture because I never was brought up in the black culture. I don't even consider myself an expert on the white culture, even though I was brought up in a very white community. I think every culture, like, it's more regional based than actually white, black based. Like, the differences, like, from where I grew up, like, I grew up on the east coast of Canada, and the people there are very different than the people where I live now. I live in Toronto now, and it's just very different. It's like night and day. And it has nothing to do with white, black, or any race thing. It's more a regional thing. And I don't think people get that we don't, it's not that we don't know, by having one black friend, we all of a sudden become cultural experts. I don't think having friends of a certain race makes you a cultural expert on it. But it does give you some insight, and it gives you insight in terms of their experience, their cultural upbringing. But does it give you experience of the whole black cultural experience? I mean, there's black people all over the world, and each of them have a very different experience. I don't even think as a black person you could say you're a black expert, because you would have to know all the different cultural experiences of all black people. Unless that's something you studied in university and you're like really, really wise, I don't see anyone being able to say that they're a cultural expert. And it doesn't matter how many friends you have. So yeah, I don't consider myself a cultural expert, even though I have lots of black friends. I consider myself a good friend. I try to learn everything about the people that are my friends, and I try to learn about their lives. But my knowledge is really limited to them. Of course, what we see on media, I can't really go by that. So there's not really much else to go by. So no, I don't consider myself a cultural expert. And I don't have just one friend, black friend. I think that's kind of a very silly statement. So yeah, just a weird question. Let's go on to the next one.
Project, then I'm not racist. I have a ton of white friends.
Why do you feel
It's good that he
comfortable
has tons of
cursing
white
at your parents?
Why do you kiss your dogs?
Okay, wait. Why do we feel comfortable cursing at our parents? I would never curse at my parents. I don't even feel comfortable cursing, so I don't even see that. I've actually never seen any white people curse at their parents. Maybe because of, again, back to the regional thing. If you did that in my area, that'd be really seen as bad. Like, you don't talk back to your parents. That's just rude. So yeah, I don't see it okay at all. And that's one thing with my children, I really try to bring them up with the whole philosophy that talking back to your parents is a bad thing because it's so disrespectful. And as a people, we should always be respectful of each other. And you just don't talk back to anyone. You don't swear at people. Treat people with respect, especially your parents because they brought you into this world. So definitely I would not see that as an okay thing. So let's go on to the next.
On the mouth.
How come you can't pronounce black names like Kubanjane, but can say names like Schwarzenegger, Galifianakis, and LaBeouf just fine?
Okay, so before we get into Black Lives Matter, they say a whole bunch of names. Actually, I have problems with some of those names, and as a white person, I think it's just familiarity. If you hear the name like Schwarzenegger, it's actually a name that's mispronounced a lot, even by other white people. It's just a name that if you hear a lot, you're more likely going to be able to pronounce it well. If you hear like some black name often, you're like Wesley Snipes, I don't know, that's a pretty easy name. You're more likely to be able to pronounce it just because of familiarity. You just hear it enough, and it doesn't matter what the name is. If you just hear it enough, you'll learn how to pronounce it properly. Like when I first saw the name Schwarzenegger, it was a crazy word. It just looked crazy. It's like this big long name, but you hear it pronounced enough, and you'll learn how to pronounce it. There's a lot of names that are like that. It's just a matter of hearing the names spoken enough. Again, that's why this whole concept that BuzzFeed is promoting of cultural segregation is a bad thing because it discourages people from experiencing other people's names and getting that familiarity. It's all about creating familiarity. If you experience it, you'll learn the name. But if you don't experience it, it will sound really weird. Yeah, so just experience people's names. And I still have problems saying LaBeouf. Sometimes I mess up his name. I don't know why, but I do. But I've heard it enough now that I don't mess it up. But, you know, everybody can mess up a weird sounding name. So, yeah, it's not a big deal. Okay, so next is Black Lives Matter. So this is going to be a really interesting question. So I did a video previously about Black Lives Matter, so this should be interesting.
Why do you feel like all lions' lives matter, but black lives don't?
Why is a lion's life in Africa more important than the lives of black people here in America? What did Simba ever do for you?
I get it. Lion King was an awesome movie, but so was Selma, and so was Malcolm X.
Why is it?
Okay, so why do lions' lives matter more than black people's lives? That's just craziness. No, I actually, as a human, I kind of value humans more than animals. I was not fond of the fact that they killed a lion, but yeah, I would never say, oh, don't kill the lion over killing a black person. Like that's, you know, that's just silly. No white person would ever agree with that statement. That, and again, this is all about these baited questions. You know, when are you going to stop raping those people? You know, it's like that kind of question where you basically, the question forces the answer to be something that incriminates you. It's not the case. White people don't value the lives of lions over black people or any people for that matter. It just doesn't make sense. They would have to be utterly racist to believe that. Again, this is just craziness. Who actually thinks this way? So yeah, so let's go on to the next question. Hopefully it's a little bit better. BuzzFeed is a little bit insane. So we'll just hope for better questions.
So hard for you to acknowledge your privilege.
How does it feel to not be the spokesperson for your entire race at any given time?
Must be nice.
Okay, so that was the last question about white privilege. And then they go into their subscribe stuff. So how does it feel to have so much white privilege? Well, geez, I don't really see it as being a white privilege or any kind of privilege. I always believe that people make their own privilege. If that might sound weird, but what determines our success in life is ourselves. We can become successful if we work hard, if we become educated, we try to learn. And if that creates privilege, that's a good thing. Privilege is not a bad thing. Having the ability to help future generations, that is a privilege. And it's something that we shouldn't mock and we should embrace. And it's not something that's associated to one race or another. It's associated to the individual. We create our own privilege and we should embrace the privilege that we have, because privilege gives us power to help others. So I don't believe in the concept of white privilege. There is no white privilege. It's individual privilege. And the privilege that we can build is a good thing. And if you can build privilege as a black person or Asian person, white person or whatever, that's a good thing, because that gives you the power to cause change. And changes are desperately needed in this society where people are believing crazy stuff like these silly BuzzFeed questions. So yeah, stop promoting this whole concept of white privilege and all these other crazy white, anti-white rhetoric, and promote equality and the fact that we're all in this together, and we have to, make the world a better place. I feel like I should be a model or something. Make the world a better place. All I want is world peace. Okay, so with that last question answered, I think I survived the questions. This is a really long video. I have to edit it because I made way too many mistakes in terms of like blah blah. I just lost my train of thought so many times because I was just overwhelmed by the questions. I want your opinion. How would you answer these questions? Like, these are crazy questions. I don't care if you're white, black, purple, green, whatever color you are. How would you answer these questions if they were posed to you? It's not just black people asking white people questions. What if this was black people or purple people asking whatever X number of color some question? These questions, if you remove the concept of race from it and just say, these are questions to anybody, how would they make you feel? So I think these are pretty crazy questions to ask anybody, let alone to say black versus white. I think that's just the wrong way to approach this whole issue. So I'd love to hear your comments. If you have suggestions for videos that I should do, I'm trying to make a whole bunch of these videos. I hope that you like them, and I realized that this one was a bit long because these questions made me think a little bit, and made me think, wow, BuzzFeed's really racist. But other than that, they made me think of what misconceptions that people have about white people. And I really wanted to address that. So I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe. Please check out my other videos. And I hope that I can get better at making videos. I'm really trying to get better and better at making these videos. And I hope